Okay, so we've got a question here. We need to complete the square and graph this function here, 2x squared plus 4x plus 9. And then we're going to take this function here, g, and we're going to map f onto g, so i.e. what transformation we're going to need. And we're going to graph it. And that's 2 times x minus 2 squared plus 4x minus 3. It's a slightly different format to this one. It's got a 4x in there. And this one, h of x, which is 21 divided by 2x squared plus 4x plus 9. And this one we want to find the range, and we're going to graph it. Now we can see the denominator of h of x is the same as f of x. So I'm just going to write that in there for now. Okay, so f of x, complete the square. Let's have a look at that. So f of x, let's just write it down here, 2x squared plus 4x plus 9. So to complete the square, we need to get this 2 factored out on these terms. So leave that plus sign there. Okay, so then that equals 2x squared plus, now we've factored out a 2, so that's now going to be 2x, and then plus 9. I've just left the brackets in there because the next step we're going to need those. So this is now 2. Now to complete the square on this, we're going to have x plus half of this, which is just 1, and that's squared. But x plus 1 squared, let's just write that here, x plus 1 squared, that equals x squared plus 2x plus 1. So now we've changed the value of this function just a little bit. So now we need to take, subtract 1. So now leaving with the factor of 2, that's important, we now need to subtract 1 and then add 9. Okay, now the 2, as we can see here, was with the x squared and the 2x, so it's important that the 2 is with the minus 1, otherwise we're going to lose our equivalent value. Okay, so now let's just clean this up. So now we've got 2x plus 1 squared. Now 2 times minus 1 is minus 2, and then minus 2 plus 9 is plus 7. So that's our completed the square. Let's put CTS here. So completed the square for our function. So now we're going to graph it. So to graph it, we need to find where the x and the y intercepts are. Now, if we plug in x equals 0, we'll get our y-intercept. So let's write down here, x equals 0. We then get 2 times 0 plus 1 squared plus 7. So 2 times 1 squared is 2 plus 7, so that equals 9. So when x is 0, y is 9. So our intercept is going to be here. So now we need to find out what our minimum point is. Because we know we're dealing with a quadratic, so it's going to be some sort of a curve, either this way or this way. But as it's positive 2x squared, it's going to make the shape of a smile. So we know it's going to be of this form, like this, somewhere. Okay, so what's the minimum value of inside here? Well, x plus 1 squared, that is always positive. That's never going to be negative because it's a squared term. So x plus 1 will become 0 when x is minus 1. So when x equals minus 1, we've got 2 times 0 squared plus 7, which equals 7. So therefore we've got the minimum point at x is minus 1, y is 7. So minus 1 and 7. So that's our minimum. So it looks like the f of x, we've completed the square and we're going to graph it. So it's going to look something like this. It's going to go out here all the way to infinity. It's going to go all the way up here to infinity too. Okay, so this point here, just mark that in, that's minus 1, 7. And this point here is 0, 9. So that's the information there for our graph of f of x. Now what about g of x? We want to map f onto g. So what is the graph of g of x? Well, let's just tidy this up a little bit, and then we'll be able to graph it. So let's just write it here. Just put this in a box. G of x equals, let's expand this out now. So x minus 2 squared times 2. So that's 2. So x minus 2 squared, we can just write that straight in. That's going to be x squared minus 4x plus 4. And then we're going to go plus 4x minus 3. Okay, now the 2 is going to be for here. So the brackets there won't go there. So now let's just simplify this off. 2x squared minus 8x plus 8. That's we don't need the bracket now. Plus 4x and minus 3. Okay, simplify again. Again, all the like terms. 2x squared minus 8x plus 4x is minus 4x, and then plus 8 minus 3 is plus 5. Okay, so as before, now let's complete the square on this one. So complete the square, factor out the 2, that's going to give us x squared minus, take the 2 out of that, we get minus 2x, and the constant we'll just leave on its own. Okay, so we've not changed the value of the function at all. So now let's go and complete the square using the technique we did here. So now we're going to have x minus half of this 2, so that's minus 1, and that's going to be squared. Now with x minus 1 squared, let's just write that up here. So x minus 1 squared, that's going to give us x squared minus 2x plus 1. So we've gained a 1 somewhere here. So now what we need to do is subtract 1. So minus 1 and plus 5. Okay, just leave that in a bracket there. Continue down here. So now we've got g of x equals 2x minus 1 squared plus 4. So again, what happens when x equals 0? So if x equals 0, we've got 2 times minus 1 squared plus 4. Minus 1 squared is 1, plus 4, that's 6. So when x is 0, y is 6. So we've got an intercept here. And we'll just write on there 0, 6. Now, what about the minimum point? So what's the minimum point here? Well, again, this is squared. So when this is 0 in here, that's our minimum point. Well, that's minimum at x equals 1. So when x equals 1, we've got 2 times 0 squared plus 4, which equals 4. So our minimum point is at x equals 1, y equals 4. So we've got a minimum here. So 4 is about here, and say 1 is about there. Okay, so now we can graph this function. So that's the minimum. So it's going to go out somewhere like that. It's going to follow the same shape because we have 2x squared here, and it's going to be positive, so it's going to make that shape. It's going to cross through the axis there and go out there to infinity. Okay, but we want to know how to transform f onto g. Well, the best thing to do is look at their minimum points and see what we have to do to map one onto the other. So we got minus 1 to 1 is the x values. So for x, we want -1 to 1, which equals 2 units to the right. And the y, let's just write that here. So for y, 7 goes to 4. So that means 3 units down. Okay, so to map this, to map to f of x onto g of x, so map f onto g, we need 2 units to the right and 3 units down. We can do those in any order, doesn't matter which order we do. Okay, so now we've got this function here, 21 over 2x squared plus 4x plus 9, which we know this is the same as this. So we can rewrite that. Let's just rewrite that one here. So we've got 21 over, how is the completed the square? We've got 2x plus 1 squared plus 7. Okay, so for 21 divided by 2x plus 1 squared plus 7, what we need to do to find a maximum or minimum, we need to make this term here 0 and find out what the value is that is going to be. So this is going to go into 0 when x equals -1. So if x equals -1, h of x equals 21 divided by, that will be 0, so over 7, which equals 3. So we can graph this in here now. It's going to be at the point -1, 3. We know it never equals 0, so we know that this function here has a maximum at 3. So as it's a quadratic, it's going to follow this kind of shape. So it's going to be somewhere out there, never touching 0, and it's going to be a mirror image across this side. So again, that would be our h of x. So that's our h, that's our g, and that's our f. Okay, so what's the range of h of x? Well, the range of h of x, so range is x is greater than 0, but less than or equal to 3.